Recently, your administration invested $19 million in an effort to provide more opportunities for men to become school teachers. As someone who's a former middle school teacher and a member of the school board for the second largest district in this country, I can affirm the research, the impact that men have on their students both in and out of schools. What else can your administration do to pull young men out of this crisis we're seeing in Maryland and around the country?
Thank you, Carson, and thanks for your leadership, too. Part of the reason why I wanted to put a clear focus on young men and boys was both, as you mentioned, Nora, the data is just so clear. And we've been ignoring data for a very long time. When we're looking at everything from suicide rates, when we're looking at the job placement and job growth, when we're looking at reading levels, we are watching how young boys have continued to fall off. And I remember when I first brought it up, there was a lot of controversy behind it. And people were saying, well, does this mean you're not going to support young girls? I said, no. What we're saying is this: we are going to support our young women and girls. But if you really want to support your young women and girls, make sure we have strong men and boys in society, too. That you got to make sure you're lifting up both intentionally. And so we did. We focused on things like putting more male mentors inside a classroom and more male teachers. That we focused on things like making sure that homes of worship were involved inside of this conversation, and we were creating new opportunities. We made Maryland the first state in the country that now has a service year option for all of our high school graduates, many of them young boys. That I signed the largest mass pardon in the history of the United States of America when I pardoned over 175,000 misdemeanor cannabis convictions in the stroke of a pen. Much of that benefiting and supporting young men who were finding themselves completely wiped out of a job market for a misdemeanor cannabis conviction from the 1990s. And so by putting a very intentional focus on our young men and boys, we have seen how not only has that helped to drive the improvements that we're seeing in Maryland, we have been able to cut the teacher vacancy rate in half in the state of Maryland since I've been the governor. Much of those have been men entering into the teaching force. That we've been able to see graduation rates spike, that we're now watching how in most grades in Maryland, essentially every grade in Maryland, both reading and mathematics are up, and our early childhood reading has jumped 20 states in 2 years. I'm a big believer, because I've seen it in my own life as a person who was raised by an immigrant single mom, that my mother could do a whole lot to help and support me and lift me. She couldn't teach me how to be a man. The same thing for my daughter. I love my daughter with my whole heart. There are just certain nuances I can't teach her about how to be a woman. My wife has to do that. Her aunts, her grandmothers, her friends, that's going to be something that they are going to be uniquely able and capable to do. So I just want to make sure that all of our young boys, no matter their situation, that they can get the same kind of supports that I got and you got, because that will help them turn into not just good and decent, but contributing men.